Hi Scoots, I'm Inksy, and this morally ambiguous pigeon is Blot. And welcome back to my Artwork Rework series. In this episode, I'll be reworking this piece. This one happens to be one of my favorites out of my old artwork, mainly because of the shinies. What can I say, I'm a Lou Goblin at heart. Onto the sketch. For this piece, I decided to do some rough thumbnails since even though I do have a point of reference for the face and jewelry, this artwork doesn't have a landscape in the hair or an animal, which are both things I do want to add in all of these pieces in the series. For the animal, I immediately thought of a peacock because the headpiece kind of looks like upside down peacock feathers. And when I think of peacocks, I think of them being in a pretty and green environment, so I thought it would be fitting to have some sort of elegant garden as the landscape in the hair. For the first option, I was thinking of having a garden pavilion amongst trees and bushes, with it maybe leading into some body of water at the bottom. For the second option, I went with a fountain in the midground with the foliage around it. And for the third option, I wanted to do something similar to the secret garden, where a door opens into a beautiful hidden landscape. I had a hard time deciding between these options since I really liked all of them and felt that each could work in one way or another. But in the end, I decided to go with this option since I felt it had a bit more whimsy and perhaps a more fantastical element than the other two. With that settled, I worked on the rough sketch a bit more by adding the face, jewelry, and some detail, and then moved on to the color tests. For this, I did 3 options, and I thought it would be cool if each palette correlated to the colors of the peacock. By the way, how come you never add the skin color to the color palette? Shouldn't that be a part of it? Not necessarily. The reason why I don't add the skin color to the palette is because I prefer to let the color palette influence the skin color, rather than defining a skin tone up front. And what I mean by that is that I tend to use a bit of color theory to determine the skin color. Using this one as an example, the main color here is this blue, and it's interacting with the skin quite a lot. So I take the blue and play around with its complementary color. And I think this color works well with the blue, however I did adjust it to be a tad bit warmer. Having said all that, sometimes I don't do this step until I have selected a color palette for the piece, or I'll do it for one of the color options and then use it for the rest of the variations and then change it later if I have to. I hope that makes sense. Meh, kinda. Alright, I'll take it. Back to the color test, I was kind of torn between these two since I really like the blue hair and the greens of this one, but I also really like the purple lipstick of this one. In the end though, I decided to go with this option. However, I wasn't really liking the placement of the peacock or how the feathers looked, so I played around a bit and changed the comp to this. I think this flows a lot better and allows for the peacock to be more of a focal point. With that, it's time for lighting and rendering tests. Not gonna lie, I kinda got a little carried away with the rendering test due to it being one of the rare moments that I was so happy with the first test that I didn't even bother doing any other options, and instead kept working on the one test render. It's also where I played around with the rendering of the jewelry and thought it'd be cool to have the head feathers of the peacock to be the same texture. Also, I thought it'd be fun to have like these peacock feather patterns in the hair. Now moving on to the cleanup. As per usual, I separated the lines that I wanted to be in a different color. For the skin line work, I wanted it to be like a burnt sienna, and for the rest of the line work to be blues and greens. Here's how that looks with the flat colors, and now it's time for the render. Add some color to the face, lighting and shading, some eye makeup, pretty hair, shinies and sunshine, and done! I know I said in my last video that that piece was my favorite, but now I'm conflicted, which seems to be the theme of this video. Well, until it gets dethroned, this one has become my favorite in this collection. As for the name, I think peacock suits it really well, don't you? Before I mock it off on the rework board, I want to do some admin. In my Arjana video, I asked you guys if I should keep the name Arjana or if you have a better idea for it. And Weekly Lines by T came in clutch with one of their suggestions being Amazon as an alternative name. I honestly think that fits so much better for this piece, so I will be changing it to that. And thank you Weekly Lines by T for your great suggestion. Something else I wanted to mention is that you probably noticed that I didn't use a stickman as I usually do for the interaction portion of my video. And that's because I sent out a request for your guys' OCs to use for that part instead. And the OC I chose to go with in this video is from the lovely AvacadoBoi. Great name, by the way. With this being their original drawing of their character Enoki that they supplied. Thank you so much AvacadoBoi for lending me your character. I have linked all their socials in the description, so please make sure to show them some love and support. I hope to do this more often with you guys, so keep a lookout for this post on TikTok and Instagram. With that sorted, let's mark this one done on the rework board. The next piece is going to be one that you guys voted for, and as of recording, there's 2 votes for number 2, 1 for number 4, 1 for number 9, 1 for number 11, and 1 for all of them. You're vastly overestimating my abilities there, but alright. So number 2 does win and will be the next video. Thank you so much for your votes. Let me know which piece I should do next, or if you have a completely new idea for a piece like this. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.